Hey, Alex.
Hey, Kate.
So, how much do you think about fashion?
Not at all. I just look this good naturally.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I probably care more about looking good than I used to, but I haven't really thought about why.
Well, according to Dandy Wellington, it might have something to do with ambition.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a band leader and entrepreneur, and he's thought a lot about style, especially vintage style. Tyler talked with him about what style meant in Harlem in the early 20th century.
Great. And then we've got 2 library stories.
Yeah, I talked with the director of the Monroe County Public Library about what's going on there.
And I went over to the Lilly Library on campus where there's a surprising amount of hair.
That sounds weird. And it's all coming up on Nice Work after this.
Welcome back. This is Nice Work, and I'm Tyler Lake. So I've been thinking a lot about this interview I did recently. We'll get to it shortly. This guy I talked to, he's a sharp dresser to be sure. He goes by Dandy Wellington, and he has this sort of Harlem Renaissance style. I think originally my idea was to have him on to talk about fashion, maybe to talk about why I feel so awkward and uncomfortable when I try to dress more formal, or even just try something new, let alone dress like he does, which is maybe somewhat era-specific, but not costumey, just incredibly beautiful, well-put-together outfits. What I found in Dandy was, yes, a very fashionable guy, but also an entrepreneur. And those two things, and a lot of other things for that matter, are related. He's taking an early 20th century approach to style and a 21st century approach to business. And he builds brands and partnerships, and he does events and a lot of social activism, all around an identity. I thought I was going to have a conversation about fashion, and what I ended up having was a conversation about history and culture and how you can create an identity and a career by understanding how to tell your own story. So that's enough from me, I think. Let's listen to my interview with the multi-talented Dandy Wellington. You seem to have an immense appreciation of the music and style of the Harlem Renaissance. It's a movement that saw a flourishing of black art, fashion, and culture during the interwar periods between 1920 and the late 30s. What, of all things, drew you to that era, to that time and place?
Well, I'm born and raised in Harlem, so being on that land, in that neighborhood, surrounded by those buildings, those important sites where some of the greatest authors and musicians, painters, just a whole slew of people that shaped the way that Black thought and Black expression would continue, would be seen, not only by the people who observed it, but the people who were a part of it. I mean, to be there, there's no way it couldn't affect you. But I was very fortunate to grow up in a home filled with art, filled with books, filled with music. My mom is an avid collector of old books. There's a bookshop called The Strand in New York, and I mean, when she got here in the 1970s, she would just go down to 14th Street and spend hours just grabbing just books, and of course prioritizing Black authors and books about Black people written by Black people. So I was just surrounded by all of this history and by neighbors who took that history to heart. It's who we are. And so how can I not be inspired by it? Harlem, at that point, we're talking during the Great Migration, which is a sort of a constant migration that was happening. But the Great Migration brought Black folk from the South, from sometimes the West, to these big cities where they could breathe a little bit easier. They couldn't release entirely, it was still, the 1920s. But they could breathe a little bit easier, and they found large communities, largely black, but in places like New York, also extremely diverse, where they could be around each other. They could own businesses. They could dress the way they wanted to be. For the first time in a long time, they could express themselves fully and walk down the street and feel safe. And that form of physical expression, you don't even have to open your mouth. You don't have to, you don't have to sing. You don't have to throw out a dance step. You don't have to, talk about your philosophical perspective on life. You just dress and you say, I'm here. I'm here. I have a sense of color and composition. I have a sense of drape and ambition. And there's something about that word, ambition. We all have it, but for it to be realized through clothing, for it to be telegraphed through what you wear, is something really special. And that's what was happening in the Harlem Renaissance.
You've sort of popularized this phrase, vintage style, not vintage values. And I know it might seem obvious, but I would love to hear what that means to you.
Yeah. So vintage style, not vintage values, for me, means we look back not to go back, but to move forward. We say that we're going to learn about our history. We're going to be inspired by our forebears. We're going to nerd out about the mechanical joys, the textiles, the community that was of the past. Honor those who have made a way for us. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. They were able to sustain and make a mark, and it's our job to move it forward. And so that's what we're taking from the past. We're not obscuring what was and, thinking like, oh, it was all rosy. It was hard. It was a hard time for most people, whether you are, whether you're African American, Chinese, indigenous, whoever, or if you're just a ranch worker in the Midwest, and it seems like the titans of big business are starting to encroach upon what you do for a living. It's hard. But the idea is that we bring all that love and appreciation for the past, the style, the mechanism, just the craftsmanship. Mm-hmm. You look at an old car, come on. Yeah. You bring that forward and then open the lens, welcome in more voices, bring more community, and see how we can appreciate the past together.
I kind of want to back up a bit and kind of talk like a little big picture. So let's talk about the Black Dandy and talk about sort of the longer history of Black dandyism and its roots in slavery.
Sure.
And then how it was subverted to become a kind of empowerment for Black men.
Yeah. It's interesting because as long as there have been Black people, there have been Black dandies. But I think dandyism found its voice in the midst of slavery from different nations. You now had Black people, Black bodies, who were not in control of their own destiny, but then trying to wrestle back that control through sartorialism, through self-expression, understanding their place. Sometimes they were dressed up as tools, as props, as property, often as property, because they were property. But then being dressed up and playing that role, understanding also the power that lives in that role. Because the saying says people see you before they hear you. Mm-hmm. They see you before they know you. And the ability to leverage that sartorialism into liberation, into agency, is a story as old as time when it comes to Black people, especially during slavery. And so the Black Dandy, using sartorialism, he's using personal style and self-expression in order to find a way forward for himself and for his people.
Is it purely about identity, or was there something about the idea of identity and power? I feel like there's some relationship there that I haven't thoroughly teased out.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's different for everybody, but I think it's often easy to speak in absolutes because it's easy. Mm-hmm. But what Black dandyism and Black sartorialism is different for everybody. But I do believe that power is a key element of it. Not power over others, but power over yourself, power over your future, and how you want to navigate the world, power over your own voice. Because I think it's important to know that Black people during enslavement did not have a voice. So how can you use the materials that you have, find different ways to express yourself, to assert agency, and find self-empowerment?
I gave a little intro of you, but I feel like I just absolutely scratched the very top layer of your CV. So can you tell our audience all of the many things you do and give some examples?
I'm a band leader, so I have an 8 to 10 piece band that is based in New York City, but travels all over the world. We focus on 1920s and 30s music with tons of original music sprinkled in, tunes that I've written and have been written with other people in the band. That band is, we will do events around the world, but then also I produce events around the band. So whether that be my Easter egg strut that I've been doing for 6 years now, I'll do events like that, or the Windy City strut. I have a shoe collection with American Duchess, 11 styles that are connected to Harlem. The collection is called Harlemology. Mm-hmm. So that's an 11-piece collection that is sold worldwide.
And sold out in terms of several colors and models.
Yes, there are several that are sold out. And speaking of selling, of course, I have my own shop. So whether it be the Vintage Style at Vintage Values pin, or Ankara print, bandanas and neckerchiefs, tote bags, different things.
So, we have a media school here. We're part of the media school. To me, you seem like you have managed to embrace a 1920s and 1930s style to be a very contemporary entrepreneur and content creator. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about someone who's doing what you do, which is using a lot of tools to keep yourself busy and relevant and to bring views and people to you. Can you talk about what it's like being a kind of entrepreneur, content creator, and musician that you are right now in this media environment?
Yeah, I mean, if you own a business, if you are as they say, solopreneur, you have to be able to do everything. As a content creator, creating content is an arm of the events that I do, certainly the things that are in the shop and my collaborations, but it's also a way of building out the digital community that can exist in real life. And that synergy is very important for me. I'm very fortunate to know a lot of people through Instagram or various other platforms who dress vintage, because there are a lot of us all over the world who dress in vintage every single day, and this is what we do and who we are. I've been lucky to connect with these folks, but then finding ways to bring that digital connection into the real world is so essential. And a lot of that is done through content creation, through connecting elements of my life and their life together. That all happens within the sort of content and digital space. But then we can bring those conversations, those stories to life at events. Whenever I'm traveling, it's who am I meeting up? How are we connecting? How are we saying hello to these like digital bits of inspiration, these people that really inspire us? Because that's what it is. The community inspires each other.
I don't think a lot of people who think a lot about digital creation have turned that corner of then you have to parlay that into something physical.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I think a lot of people see digital content creation as the goal and not the means.
Yeah, it can definitely be very siloed. It's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and you know, we all get nerdy about what we're doing, and then hyper focused on the gear and the software. I mean, any editor knows that once you get in the bay, you get locked in, and you start churning out draft after draft, and you're like, okay, let me tweak this color, and you know, let me adjust this sound, and it can be very time consuming. And we all want to put out a great product, but also know that when you put that out, chances are it is at the behest of the algorithm. And so you may have spent 36 hours on a 5-minute piece, a 1-minute piece, getting it to look exactly how you want, and the algorithm says no. The algorithm says 30 people will see it, and you have 3,000 followers, let's say. And that can be demoralizing, but understanding that is only part of the whole, that the effect of connection through creation can happen in person is crucial, and it's helpful, and it allows for the digital work to just be a moment, and in a career it is a moment, but those many moments build a career.
As an impeccable dresser and someone who's thought a lot about fashion, what are some basic style tips that you would hand out for some of us sartorially stunted individuals?
First, pull on your inspiration. Inspiration is really everything. I mean, it's the catalyst. It is the starting point. With style, you can always adjust. You can always play. So inspiration is a huge thing. And once you have a sense of your inspiration and have gathered some articles of inspiration, some pieces, whether they be photography, whether it be film, whether it be people that you follow on social media, which, you know, it's always important to be aware that the people that you follow are showcasing their best moments. You know, they're not always showing the process. They're showcasing a product, because that's what's often social media is. It is the best version of a thing. Once you've gathered all those things, now you have to think about where to get items. You have to think about what you have, because that's always the best place to start, is what you already have. And then, how does it fit? How does it fit your body? How does it fit your lifestyle? And how does it fit what you want to achieve? And you just start to work from the basics. For us, a button-down shirt. There's nothing that can beat a great button-down shirt, because if you're dressing sort of in a traditional sartorial Western way, as it were, that is the foundation. The dress shirt was originally underwear, and on top of that, you could put your detachable collars and your trousers, your waistcoat, your jacket. So a button-down shirt is always a great place to start. And then, of course, a great pair of shoes that will be comfortable, but also make you feel like you're putting your best foot forward, so to speak.
Just something that I feel like I've noticed, and I could be wrong, but I feel over the last few years we have seen a rise in an interest, especially for menswear, of more classic and formal looks. Wider cuts, higher waists, and more elegant drape. Stuff that actually fits into that pre-war, mid-century style. So what do you think accounts for that? And as someone who's loved that period, how does it feel that we all finally caught up?
Well, I mean, there's lots to be said about trends. They are often a function of a fashion industry that is deciding what is and what isn't. Why it's happening, who knows? Maybe it's a matter of things are feeling a little bit more traditional now or something, or with everything that's been happening with recently in the recent Fashion Week with Ralph Lauren and Jack Carlson, who used to run Rowing Blazers, now becoming the creative director for J-Press. There is an attraction to trad style, to traditional sartorialism, also because a lot of what we're seeing on red carpets is impractical, and we live in very practical times right now. People need to be able to go to a grocery store and get the things that they need and leave. You know, they need to be able to put clothes on that make them feel good, and that's it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the old way is tried and true.
Yeah.
You know, it's clear. It's like if Humphrey Bogart could do it, if, as my friend Tony was saying the other day during a style talk in Chicago, if a coal miner can wear a tie, maybe then I can wear a tie.
Yeah. What do you say to folks who kind of want to step their style up a bit, but feel intimidated by the idea of looking overdressed or somewhat out of place?
When people are having trouble with the idea of feeling overdressed, some of that is internal. Some of that is just, you know, you got to get on the bike and ride it. You know, you gotta seize the moment and realize that if it is something that you want, if it is something that will bring you joy, then that's what you've got to shoot for. You got to reach for that. But oftentimes they're getting outside feedback from other people. And the truth is that if somebody is talking bad about you, it doesn't matter how you dress. Doesn't matter how you dress, doesn't matter what you believe in or what you say or what, that is what they're going to do. Because if they're taking time out of their life to say something bad about you and to cut you down, it is absolutely their problem. So, although it is difficult, whether it be in the moment or sometimes outside of the moment, it's difficult to not internalize that fully. It's important to try and remember it. You may not be able to internalize it yet, but try and remember it, that it is their problem. And when you dress the way you want, when you find your own personal expression through sartorialism, you will find your people. That's it. You will absolutely find your people.
You seem to have a pretty busy schedule. You have some cool things coming up.
Yeah.
Kind of give me an idea of what's in the next few months, year for you.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's hard to beat what I just finished with. I mean, being at Goodwood Revival, interviewing Dita Von Teese and designer Gabriella Hearst, and curator for the V&A Jessica Harpley, and having 3 nights at Jazz at Lincoln Center's Dizzy's, and being in Chicago for the Windy City Strut, and of course being here with you. I mean,
Highlight, I'm sure.
Super highlight, big highlight. But coming up, I will be looking forward to a full fall of events, but also since September was so crazy, like maybe a little bit of a slowdown.
Yeah, I bet.
I know that I will be spending New Year's Eve in Florence, emceeing a massive event. So that will be quite an experience. There are also sort of community things that I do where it's not necessarily my band or anything. It's just gathering people together to enjoy each other's company, enjoy sort of dressing in a fun and fabulous way. So one thing that I have been doing is called Black Watch Friday.
Okay.
And so because Black Watch Tartan is, in my opinion, one of the greatest tartans there are,
Okay.
it's just an opportunity for people on Black Friday to get together, wear a black watch, hang out. And that's the fun thing about style is you can just call that out. I mean, one of the most important days on the calendar is Straw Hat Day. I threw a party on that day for years called the Boater Ball because the straw boater is my favorite hat. And why not? We're putting our felt hats away and we're bringing out our straw hats. So there's a lot of that. But I'll also be recording some new music. I'll also be working on some events for next year.
Give me a quick description of Black Watch Tartan.
So Black Watch Tartan is a plaid pattern. It's a plaid fabric that is very much, as all tartans, connected to Scotland and the various clans. But Black Watch is one of those tartans that has been adopted, also similar to what is called Christmas tartan, adopted by many of the sort of menswear brands, whether you're talking about a Ralph Lauren, a Brooks Brothers, J. Press, and it is a green and navy blue, sort of a forest green and navy blue tartan in a plaid shape. So you've got your navy blue foundation and you've got your green stripes creating a plaid motif.
Cool. How do you define style?
I think this has been said many times that fashion is bought and style is earned. We can go into a store and you can buy up all the racks, but if you don't put it together in a way that is you, it's not style. If you don't own it and live in it and imbue it with your full self, it is not style. And I think in a world where there's lots and lots of influencers and different people who are working, they have brand deals. If you take that as a rule of thumb when you're processing what they do, you will find those who really dress a certain way. Like it is really their style. And that information is always helpful because for a lot of people those are the bits of inspiration that it's easily accessible. If you want to look at a photo of the gentleman in the 1930s, yeah, there's lots of images out there, but also there's a lot of AI images that are obscuring the reality of that.
Yeah.
Not to say that AI things are not involved in, people who are content creators now, but it can be difficult. You have to dig a little bit deeper. You have to go and look at old Sears catalogs. You have to go and look at old Life magazines and things like that. But that understanding of style being imbued with one's full self, to be how they move through the world fully, how they people, as they say. It's always a good rule of thumb to think about it that way.
Dandy Wellington, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
That was my conversation with Dandy Wellington. And it's worth noting that he was here in Bloomington as part of the Bill Blass Speaker Series put on by the Eskenazi School of Art, Architecture, and Design. You can keep up with Dandy on his Instagram at DandyWellington, and you can find out about events and more at dandywellington.com. I'm Tyler Lake, and this is Nice Work.
This is Nice Work. I'm Kate Young, and I invited the director of the local public library, Greer Carson, to talk with us today about what's going on at the library these days. Some of it may surprise you. Let's dive in. So, as the director of the Monroe County Public Library, can you talk about how you view the role of the library in the community and how the various locations serve the population?
Sure. Our public library and public libraries in general are first and foremost a form of public trust. So everyone within the community is effectively paying into and supporting a shared collection of resources and services provided by a public library. It's something we've agreed is important and mutually beneficial, and therefore we maintain it the way we do. We always talk about public libraries as being about free and equitable access, and it is very much about equitable access, but it's not technically free. It's an important distinction to keep in mind, particularly today when politics can often inform people's views of what their money is going toward and not going toward, and it's important for everybody to remember that a public library is effectively paid for by everybody. So it is a public trust. With that trust comes a huge amount of responsibility for us as library professionals to constantly evaluate the services we're providing, the collections we're curating and providing access to for the public, and making sure that it's actually meeting people's needs. And that's always a moving target and always will be. So that's the nature of the work, and we take that very seriously. 30 years ago, we were focused mostly on resources, collecting, curating them, refining them, and making them as accessible as possible. But what has developed more over the last couple of decades is programming and community service. That's been a sort of a mission mentality for public libraries for quite a while. And it means that we focus a little bit less on collection development only and more on balancing collection development with programs and services development and really stretching what the library is supposed to be for everybody. And it becomes more and more like a community center in that respect than it does a house of books in the traditional sense. So that's what public libraries do now, and that's their function, and that's very much MCPL's function. We're also very much about intellectual freedom. Libraries are right now kind of in the middle of some of this contentious discussion about what's appropriate content for people of different ages and backgrounds. And what you usually hear about are book bans. Intellectual freedom is an enormously important principle behind library services, and it's not just for collection development, which is the curation of books and media and other things like that, but it goes into our thinking about programming as well. So libraries as kind of the beacons of intellectual freedom in the early 21st century is a huge part of what the library is for today.
When you spoke about the different programs and services that you offer, I was just wondering if you could say a few examples of what kinds of programs you're talking about.
So traditional library programs might be like story times for children, and we do tons of that. Book clubs for adults, we do a lot of those. What we're starting to develop now are book clubs, for example, that aren't really about books. Maybe they're about video games. And maybe they're not for adults or children, maybe they're for teens. Instead of having the group sit down and read the book and come together to talk about it, people are going to sit down, play the game, and talk about their shared experiences or interpretations. And they'll look at the game much like you do a book, a novel, and say, let's break it down in terms of its literary form and so on. I want to mention our summer reading program, because what is new about summer reading at the library is that all audiences are now participating in it. So it was always kind of been like a annual children's program thing. It's a coordinated program across public libraries. But over the last decade, we've slowly brought in adult summer reading and then teen summer reading. And now we have summer reading across all audiences, and those participation numbers go up every single year.
I really love that idea of it
Yeah.
being available across audiences.
We're also, this is one of my favorite things, we're working with kids on game design, specifically role-playing games. And some of that is through video game platforms, but a lot of it is tabletop game design. So we have library patrons who are working together in a group, and they're led by a librarian or a library assistant on figuring out, how do I develop my own role-playing game and create a story around that game that other patrons or similar club members can participate in or expand upon. And we've been doing that for a few years, and most recently we had a teen RPG group develop a set of really unique games, and they presented these to our foundation group during its annual meeting. And so we've got game development, we've got story development, and we've got kids who are more and more confident in doing this, that they can stand up and present that to a group at an annual meeting and take pride in what they've created. So the creative aspect of library programming is really taken off compared to what we've done in the past.
One of the things that I feel like the library, especially the downtown branch, is that it provides a vital service for marginalized folks in our community. At times, the public library is a daytime warming center for unhoused people and a place to access resources like computers and the internet, public bathrooms, literacy programs. And also, it's a meeting place. It's a place that families meet with young kids, a place for kids to meet each other and parents to also meet each other. And I just was wondering if you could talk about how you think of the library as a community space, and is it difficult to manage these sometimes competing needs?
When it comes to supporting folks who are marginalized in various aspects of their lives, I think the best example would be the fact that we do have 3 physical facilities. We try to maintain as consistent hours as possible despite the weather. So we just got through a weekend where there were plenty of questions about whether or not we were going to close because single digits and snow and so on. And we remind ourselves, but we are a warming station, so this is actually when we need to be open the most for people. So we do that, and it's just, certainly through the winter, but in the summer maybe more than any other time of the year, that need for climate-controlled and relaxed and safe space for people who don't otherwise have a safe climate-controlled space is a huge thing that we do, and we do it just by opening the doors. It's more complicated than that because it does require managing patron behavior, and we do have some challenges with that downtown, but basically by opening the door and being a predictable and reliable community space, we're meeting that need for a lot of people right off the bat. If you go into the building from there, the first thing you might think of is internet access. We provide a ton of internet access through patron computers every day that we're open. We circulate computers as well and wireless hotspots for people to check out. Certainly having meeting space. Having a space at the library where you don't have to have like a very particular reason where we say yes to this but no to this, and there are some exceptions, of course, but by and large, if you want to come into the library and have a group meeting, you can reserve a private space and have that meeting. Yeah. That's a huge service for a lot of people. Getting back to your sort of side question, is it a challenge to juggle all of these needs? Absolutely. It's a challenge in principle because you're trying to be a little bit of everything to everybody, and you can't do that across the board perfectly. You just can't. Just making situational decisions about, okay, this patron thinks they reserved this space and they really need it, but they didn't, and there's another group that also needs it, and how do we take an equitable approach to making a decision in that moment. I mean, that's a daily thing that our staff deal with on the floor. So it is a big challenge trying to be a little bit of everything to everybody. But we like it. That's what we got into this for. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the library and librarians have this special status in the community, and more people are looking to librarians and lifting them up as heroes. And I can see why. I mean, it's about providing that access and this just really important community space that is unlike anything else that we really have.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for talking with me. I know there's so much about the library that we didn't even get to touch on, but I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That was Greer Carson, the library director for the Monroe County Public Library. There really was so much we didn't get to. The public library is a fascinating space. I promise to have Greer back on the show for a longer conversation about libraries and intellectual freedom, among other things. So we have that to look forward to at some point in the future. Plus, more nice work right after the break. Stay with us.
This is Nice Work. I'm Alex Chambers. There's a stately limestone building on the Indiana University campus with a vault underneath it. It's not filled with the university's supply of gold. We don't know where that is. But it does have scholars' gold. And here at Nice Work, we decided it was time one of us saw it.
And you are now officially in the behind-the-scenes area, so where the public cannot go.
That's Rebecca Bauman. She's the head of curatorial services and curator of modern books at the Lilly Library.
The Lilly Library is IU's rare book and manuscript library. So that means we've got about 500,000 rare books and about 8.5 million pieces of manuscript.
And a surprising amount of hair. It was the hair that I really wanted to see.
And we're going to be walking through our cataloging and description
Rebecca
department.
led me
So
through an
this is
office room where
where,
archivists
people
were
actually work.
archiving. At the other end of the room was a door with a lock.
We'll see if I can get the combination right on the first try.
She did, and the door swung open to the Lilly Library's vault. The gold on the shelves was almost
I can lay
blinding.
hands on Audubon's Birds of America, the original Declaration of Independence, Shakespeare's First Folio, first edition of Frankenstein.
And hair. We here at Nice Work feel confident that the Lilly has more hair than your local public library. At least hair that's collected on purpose. That's because in the 19th century, at least, people would give each other hair as tokens of remembrance.
You want to keep your loved one close to you, and you may not even have a photograph of them. Many of these were before photography, so it was really a way to keep someone close to you.
The hair in the vault belonged to an especially illustrious head.
And as far as we've been able to find, we have the only piece that was cut while he was live.
It was a head out of which sprung a cask of Amontillado, a gold bug, a telltale heart.
It's a beautiful, sumptuous sort of chestnut lock of Edgar Allan Poe's hair. If you've seen daguerreotypes of him, he had very beautiful wavy brown hair. And so this is it.
It's Rebecca's favorite hair in the whole library. She also kind of hates it. We'll get to that. First, though, the story of the lock of hair. Edgar Allan Poe was in his late 30s and in love. He'd met Sarah Helen Whitman a few years before. She was perfect for someone like Poe. Her husband had died years before, leaving her with money and freedom,
which were things that most women did not have. And she used them to pretty much become the 19th century goth girl. She wore black well past her mourning period. She had a coffin-shaped charm. She held seances in her house. She wrote transcendental poetry.
Whitman and Poe dated for a while. You might not be surprised to hear it was tempestuous.
Apparently, there was possibly even like ripping of each other's clothes in the streets as they fought. When they finally broke up, she made Poe promise her that he wouldn't drink. And then she received an anonymous note at the library that said Poe has been drinking again.
There's speculation that that letter came from Whitman's mother. So Poe wrote Whitman a love letter.
Dearest Helen, it starts, write me one word underlined to say you do love me and that under all circumstances underlined, you will be mine.
And sent the hair along with it to really make his point. Whitman kept it after Poe died, and now it's one of the things the librarians like to bring out on tours, to show off the surprising things in their collection. It's pretty amazing to be able to look at Edgar Allan Poe's actual hair, a lock he cut himself. But here's the thing. As cool as it is, the librarians at the Lily, they're not so thrilled about this lock of hair, or Sylvia Plath's ponytail, or any of the other hair sitting in boxes on their shelves.
Yeah, I think my feelings of frustration about the hair just come from being asked about it a lot and it becoming a stopping place.
Because there's not that much to learn from a lock of hair. Sure, 19th century ways of remembering, showing affection across long distances, all that. But it's not going to help you understand Poe's literary influences, or who would have been reading The Telltale Heart when it was first published. It's hard to write a dissertation on.
The hair is not going to spark that. It is what it is. It's just going to sit there and be cute, and you can't research it. So that's why it's a bad representation of what the Lily is. It engenders no research.
We'll admit we were less original than we thought when we found out about the lock of Poe's hair and said, wow, that's cool. It is cool. But the aura of the famous writer that emanates from this small bunch of strands, it just doesn't tell you much. So what should they do? All of us getting all excited about Poe's hair and the librarians feeling like, meh. If I were the Lilly Library, I would maybe consider just getting rid of it. Sounds like it's a distraction. As much for this reporter who does have a PhD and should be immune to this kind of shiny object fascination. I was about to propose that to Rebecca. I think I just saw a bird outside who was looking for some nesting materials.
To me, the hair has to be a hook.
But it turned out to be more complicated.
It has to be a thing that's going to get you in, and then you're going to go somewhere else with it. So you're excited because you hear we have a piece of hair, and you come in and we show it to you, and you have that sense of wonder. And that's what I like about it. It does engender a sense of wonder and connection with the past, where you're like, wow, these were people. They had hair. They were in color, you don't see Edgar Allan Poe in color.
At this point, Rebecca was starting to sound like a particular 19th century widow who liked to hold seances.
And it just kind of has this visceral quality to it that does make you realize that these dead people are still with us. They're still speaking to us.
And Rebecca says that visceral reminder from a lock of hair Edgar Allan Poe gave to the woman he loved is actually emblematic of what the library does. Again, Sarah Helen Whitman would approve.
I think of librarians as spirit mediums. We are channeling the dead. All of these objects that we have, whether it's a lock of hair, whether it's an old leather-bound book, whether it's parchment from the Middle Ages, there are lives inside of that. Some of those are obvious, right? The author's name on the title page, that's very obvious that Edgar Allan Poe's life is in that book to some extent. But what about the women who stitched the bindings? What about children who hand-colored pages? What about, the big burly men who pulled the printing press and drank beer all day and sweated and cursed and worked really, really hard to make those books real? There are so many lives, both great and common, in these objects, and that's all that's left of these people many times. Their names are lost. We remember Poe, but we don't remember the names of the people who made that paper that his letter is written on or made the ink that it's written with. That is still left of them. It's still here in this world, and I think we're responsible for sort of holding those lives in our care so that they can continue to touch and affect other people. I think that's why people love the library, because they do feel that connection with the humanity that has come before them.
Rebecca says the Lily is for everyone. It's about nurturing curiosity as much as deep research.
You don't need to have a reason other than curiosity to visit the Lily Library. A lot of libraries like this, they'll make you state like your research purpose. Like, why are you here? Are you good enough to work with these materials? You don't have to have any credentials to work with the materials, and you don't have to work with them. You can just ogle them and touch them and sniff them and, commune with them.
Got a morbid fascination with dead writers' hair? That's enough. The curators and librarians there, they just hope you get so entangled in that hair that it leads you to more questions. That you need to answer more questions before you escape. The vault awaits. We mortals are invited to disturb what's inside. For WFIU's Nice Work, I'm Alex Chambers. You've been listening to Nice Work, a production of WFIU, WTIU, and Indiana Public Media. Find us at ipm.org.
This episode was produced and edited by Alex Chambers. We get production support from Danny William, Holly Wilkerson, Carl Templeton, Eddie Stewart, Leo Paz, Jillian Blackburn, and Jonah Ballard.
Our theme music was composed and performed by Alan Davis. Additional music from Universal Production Music. Our executive producer is Eric Bolstridge. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Nice work, Alex.
Nice work, Kate.